Hey again, welcome back in my kitchen. Now, since we're talking about sweetness, let's also look at a few of the foods that can give you natural sweetness. We did look at sweeteners, but there are also a couple of things you can add to food in general that will add sweetness. So actually, salad onions are quite sweet. So if you use those, that would add sweetness to whatever dish you're using, whether you use them raw or especially if you cook them. Tomatoes, so you have small cherry tomatoes, but it could also be large ones. If they ripen on the stem and they're allowed to ripen before you pick them, that will also give you a lot of sweetness. Red pepper fruits, green and yellow ones also have some sweetness, but especially the red ones, they add sweetness whether you use them fresh or use them cooked. They taste really nice if you broil them or saute them gently. Tomato sauce that's been cooked tastes really sweet as well. So here I have some homemade traditional tomato sauce, and you'll get the recipe for that. That's also a way of adding sweetness to whatever you're having. Coconut milk, in fact, also has sweetness. Or broiled onions. So what I have here are red onions. It could also be normal onions, but they're broiled whole. So as you can see, I just put them in the oven whole and then bake them for an hour to 90 minutes at about 200 degrees Celsius until they're nice and juicy and plump. And that just gets you, I've got a cutting board, cut it open, that just gets exquisite sweetness. So if you add these to whatever your dish you're making, to a salad, use them as a side dish for fish or tofu or meat or poultry, whatever, that will give you lots of flavor, because actually onions do have a lot of natural sweetness. You just have to know how to tease it out. So baking them whole in the skin is one way. Excuse me one moment, I'm actually going to eat all of that because it tastes so good. Now, if you were to bake the onions without the skin, you wouldn't get the same sweetness because the outside would scorch and the onions would dry out. So bake them with the skin on and then remove the skin afterwards. Remember to add a bit of water in the bottom of whatever you put the onions in when you put them in the oven. Sorry, but that's chef's privilege. Now, speaking of onions and red pepper fruits, let me just show you a few tricks in terms of how to cut them. Proper chef's knife, as we looked at earlier. Now, with all vegetables, basically, but especially with onions, the way you chop them has a major impact on flavor. Okay, well, that should be about ready. So, let me show you the trick to chopping your onions very finely, which will look really fine, look really good, and taste much better. For starters, never remove the bottom. A lot of people chop off the top and the bottom, but the bottom will actually keep the onion together. Now, all this dry root we can just twist off. So keep them whole, slice them in half, and see, since the bottom's there, the onion's not splitting into a gazillion parts. Remove the outermost layers that are dry. And here comes the next part, important. And this of course requires a proper knife. Put the onion towards the edge of the cutting board and take your knife and hold it like that. So you cut through the onion, not quite all the way to the bottom, so again the onion's still attached here at the bottom. But as you can see, I've cut it open here. Now actually you could stop here and put put some spices in here and just put the onion in the oven or throw it on the grill in the summer. So if you put leaves of basil in here or lime leaves, or make some sort of mixture of curry powder with a bit of olive oil or maybe a bit of lemon juice, that that would get you really nice succulent onions. But we're looking at chopping them, so I cut it like that. So the next thing I'm going to do, if you film from above, is that I'll hold the onion together still. So I'll cut it in this direction again. I won't quite cut through the bottom because I want the onion attached. So now I've also cut it in this direction, because now all I need to do is this. That gives me nicely minced onion. So that's the trick to use if you want your onions minced very finely. And if you mince them like this, they will actually taste sweeter when you eat them. With vegetables, the more delicately they're cut, the better they will look and the better they will taste. And if you're not talking whilst doing it, it's actually quite fast. There you go. Finely minced onions that will add sweetness, and of course also they're kind of pungent and a bit peppery, but those will add sweetness to whatever you're eating. Let me also just show you the trick for slicing bell peppers, whether it's red peppers or green peppers or yellow peppers. So, by the way, I'm just going to wash the knife because we don't want the flavor of onion. And there's a trick you really want to remember. When you're cleaning your knife or your cutting board after cutting onions, chives, leeks, spring onions, garlic, any of these vegetables of the allium family that all have this pungent smell and are full of sulfurous compounds that are obviously very healthy, but also kind of sticky because sulfur is a highly reactive molecule. What you want to start out using is cold water and soap. So to wash my knife, I'll actually just start with cold water, and then I'll get a bit of soap and make sure that I get rid of all the solid particulate matter. And then now at the end, I'll use hot water. So if you remember to do that, you will remove a lot more of the onion smell and flavor from your knife or your cutting board. Because remember, sulfur is a highly reactive molecule, so if you heat it up, it essentially becomes sticky. Hence, all the volatile oils and all the sulfurous compounds that are stuck on the cutting board or at the surface of the knife, if they're exposed to really hot water, you're going to make them sticky and they'll stick longer, and hence it will smell longer. Now, for the pepper fruit, what you want to do is, it's just a trick that makes it a bit easier to prepare. It's actually just slice it like that, so you're cutting from top along the top part, because that means you can easily get rid of this, all the seeds inside. And then if you want to slice it or sliver it, that's quite easy now. So in fact, often for breakfast I'll sliver a red bell pepper like this and then fry it or saute it gently on the pan in some coconut oil, and then I will throw some eggs on top so you get scrambled red bell pepper scrambled eggs. Now for the rest of the middle part, see, I'll chop that off here. Again, that gets rid not of all but most of the seeds. And now I have these two parts here that are also quite easy to sliver, because I just put it down like this. I'll get rid of some of these seeds. And I'll just watch out for my fingertips. fingertips, I do need 95% organic food, so the dish would still be organic even if I removed my fingertip, but I'd rather keep my fingertip and be without the pain. So there you go. So if you add bell peppers that are sliced very thinly to your, whatever you're eating, that adds a lot of sweetness. So again, there are many other ways of satisfying your sweet tooth than just having all these foods that are laden with corn syrup or fructose or pure glucose or just good old plain sugar in massive amounts. And all these things here that I'm showing you will actually make you healthier, because in addition to the natural sweetness, you get lots of nutrients. So with the bell pepper here, you're getting lots of vitamin C, you'll get carotenoids, you'll actually get some lycopene from the red bell pepper. Also, you can't see that because of the red, but you'll get some of the unique carotenes and carotenoids that protect your eye, like zeaxanthin and lutein as well. Of course, they're fat soluble, so you either want to use an olive oil dressing or a dressing with another high quality oil, or you can, of course, you could also juice red pepper fruits that taste lovely. But again, just a few ideas on how you can get natural sweetness into your food, which will then satisfy your sweet tooth, so you won't have to end up either struggling with your urges and desires or giving in and then eating some of these modern sweet foods that in fact shouldn't be called foods, because they will kill you over time. Bon appetit!